Okay. My background is I'm former military, right? I spent 11 years in the Air Force. That's what brought me to San Antonio. And I spent an additional 2 years there in San Antonio. And then I exited. I separated from the Air Force, jumped into the corporate world, did that for a while, and then basically got into my own business, doing, investments in real estate and all that other stuff, with my family. So uh, that's kind of my background. In terms of how did I get to this point where I'm sitting on this Zoom call with you, is that uh, I had knee problem that dated back to my high school days when I had an injury. And over the years, it has gotten progressively worse to the point where in the last 3 years or so, about 2.5 years before I was introduced to all of this, where I was limping, right? Pain level at about an 8 on a daily basis, very uncomfortable, very painful. And it started to get to the point where it was beginning to affect other parts of my body, like my right hip, since it was my left knee, right? So yeah, that's kind of where I was when this came about.
And so somebody ended up sharing the technology with you, and I'm excited for everybody to hear what happened.
Okay, so I get a phone call from a friend of mine who's involved with LifeWave, and she just called just to have coffee with me. It wasn't anything big time. She wasn't. She had no intentions of introducing any of this to me at the time. Um, but we got together over coffee, and she saw me limping in, basically, okay, to the coffee shop, and so we caught up, and then towards the end of that sit down, she asked me how bad that pain was, and so I told her, and she said, if there was a way to get rid of it without pain, without drugs and chemicals, would you explore it? And I said, yeah. And said, I'd like to gift you some patches. And I said, oh, absolutely, I'll take anything, because I didn't want to. I don't take meds, right? I'm not going to go get a knee replacement. I don't have interest in any of those kind of things. So when she said that to me, I was all open to it. So she gave me some patches to try, right? I went home and tried those patches, and it was absolutely amazing, right? I sat down, followed their instructions, put the patches on my knee, and it was basically the Eon and Ice Wave. And within 15 seconds, that pain went from an 8 to a 1. I got up and literally took two
Wow.
steps, and I felt that pain disappear. And it was just it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So I did that for 2 days, and then on the third day, I went over to my next door neighbor, right, who has a daughter who has a tumor on her pituitary gland, and so that tumor actually creates pressure on her brain, which leads to migraines on a frequent basis, right? And she was in the middle of a migraine bout at the time when I went over there. So I gave her the patches and had her try it. Within 2 minutes, her migraine stopped. So that was the beginning of my experience with these patches. Right?
That's quite an amazing
Yeah.
beginning. I can
Yeah.
relate with you being, in the military life in some shape, form, or fashion, and us being around the same city. And there's so many people, so many soldiers in pain. There's so many people in pain, period. And that must have just, it sounds like you were so excited about what happened to your knee, you just wanted to kind of tell somebody else about it that you cared about.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, another amazing thing that happened though, which sealed the deal for me, was my mother had a heart attack, a massive heart attack at the beginning of June. Okay, that was right around the time I was getting a lot of success with the patches, and my health was getting better, right? So she has this massive heart attack, and over a course of 20 days, she was intubated for like 16 of them, right? So she's not eating, she's not getting much nutrition, she's wasting away, literally, right? Uh, so they had to do CPR on her a couple different times because she coded a couple different times during that time span. A lot of cracked ribs because she's like 100 pounds soaking wet. Okay. And, you know, she was in trouble. Her health was, I mean, it was really bad. Okay. I started patching her. And in the course of about 7 weeks, she went from skin and bones, right, where she's laying in the bed. She can't move. She can't sit up. She can't do anything because she's just so weak. Right. She went from that to 7 weeks later when she's walking on her own. right?
Whoa, what a change. So let me get backtrack just a little bit. So you started out using the Eon and the Ice Wave.
Right.
Had you been using X39 since?
Yes. What I did was I used the Eon and Ice Wave for about 2.5 weeks.
Okay.
Okay. And during that time, my pain actually I was able to get it down and keep it down without the patches. So in about 2.5 weeks, I literally was able to arrest that pain, which is absolutely amazing, right? In and of itself. That's when I transitioned to the Eon and the X39 for renewing and regenerating, right? So that's what
Okay. And what, just curious, people are going to ask what happened. I mean, which patches did you use with your mother?
I used the X39 49 and the Eon, and I stacked them all on top of each other. So I'm not putting patches all over her, right? So I kind of tricked her into wearing these patches, so to speak, by sneaking these patches on her by stacking them together and just slapping them on her back as I gave her a hug every morning.
And so 7 weeks later, she was up around and walking. And what's her life been like since?
Oh man, I mean, you look at her now, it's like a heart attack never even happened. You know, that whole episode in the hospital never even happened. She's back to her normal self. She's 83 years old, you know, and
Wow.
eating what she wants. She does what she wants. She's as ornery as ever, you know. So yeah, she's back to where she was.
Well, you made it to the end, and I'm so proud of you. Please subscribe to my channel to learn more. Thanks so much.